What's going on, everyone? So welcome to my latest video. This is part of a series where I focus on a specific director and rank that director's work from worst to best. Done such directors in the past such as Sam Raimi, Peter Jackson, David Fincher, David Lynch, Wes Anderson, many more directors. You guys can check out those directors and many more directors in my director playlist down below. But guys, you clicked on this video, so you know that this time around I'm focusing on Neil Blomkamp's films and ranking them from worst to best. Now do keep in mind this will not include any short films, music videos, TV shows, none of that. Just specifically films that he's directed. And again, as of filming this video, which is April of 2024, he's done 4 films. So I'll be ranking them from 4 being his worst to 1 being his best, and of course, my humble opinion. And I do look forward to seeing your ranking of his films in the comment section down below. But guys, enough exposition. Let's get started. So kicking things off, number 4, we have Elysium. This stars Matt Damon, and this was a huge disappointment. It's one of those situations where I love sci-fi, especially thought-provoking sci-fi, and the premise is just ripe with thematic richness, like the possibility of such. But the actual execution just left so much to be desired. And Neil Blomkamp's gone on the record as saying that he was disappointed by the end result as well. And that's fair. I think that the production design and visual effects are the standouts, but that's really all this movie has to offer. It's a very forgettable movie, which again, given the premise, is something that you don't want to say, but it's the reality. And yeah, that's why Elysium is my number 4. Next up, my number 3, we have another movie that is disappointing, but I do think that I like it a bit better than Elysium, and I'll explain why. But my number 3, we have Chappie. So this is a movie that I saw before Elysium, and I think that Chappie, one thing it has going besides the production design and the visual effects, which Elysium also had going for it, the extra addition of this movie that does work quite a bit is Hans Zimmer's score. I think Hans Zimmer's score is very unique, and I think that it works with the imagery on display. But this is another example of a movie that unfortunately has a premise that is ripe for potential, but in execution left a lot to be desired. The pacing isn't the best as well, and some of the supporting characters just aren't that interesting. And I know that also the characters aren't that likable, which will turn off many viewers. So it is a very flawed movie for sure. But I do understand why someone might have this as their number 2. But for me, it's my number 3. Next up, my number 2, this is his latest entry in his filmography, and that is my number 2, which is Gran Turismo. I had fun with this movie, and I don't know if it's because I watched it with a friend who is like a huge car person, but I enjoyed Gran Turismo. I think that for what it is, for what it's going for, it's fun. It's got decent filmmaking. The racing scenes are all right. It's a average film for sure. I'm not gonna, spice it up and say like, oh my goodness. But I think that just because at this point of when it came out, I just kind of was like, okay, it's a Neil Blomkamp film, so I know that it's gonna be just probably all right. I think because my expectations just weren't like super high, I was like, okay, I have low expectations. So the fact that it managed to exceed it and actually made it to be a middle of the road movie that I enjoyed, I liked that. I appreciated that. But I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if I see people's ranking and that this is their number 4. But it's not necessarily a good movie, again, but I had fun with it. That's why it's my number 2. Next up, my number 1. This is the one that put him on the map. It was his directorial debut. And my number 1 is District 9. District 9 is a masterpiece. When I first saw it back in, I think it was December 2014, I liked it. I thought it was good, but it was a film that I needed to rewatch. And the more I rewatched, the more I loved it. And the most recent viewing, I finally gave it a 5 out of 5 star rating. I look at it now as a masterpiece of the sci-fi genre. And I just think that it's fascinating how it's a sci-fi film, but it's got documentary-esque filmmaking in it. And I think that that's something that really adds to it. It adds to the realism, the grittiness that this film is really trying to depict. Toronto Copley gives a great performance. I love the visual. The visual effects are outstanding. Like, they are truly mind-blowing. If Avatar did not come out in the same year, this would have won Best Visual Effects, hands down. I'm glad it got nominated for Best Picture because it's so deserving. Like, this is a film that thematically, I keep talking about thematic richness. This is a film that is thematically rich. It has a lot to say, and it really sticks with you. And it's got an ending that is just unforgettable, man. It is truly a masterpiece of the sci-fi genre. I would highly, highly recommend this film if you've been sleeping on it. It is one of the best films of the 2000s, and easily, without a doubt, this is my number 1 Neil Blomkamp film. But yeah, guys, that's my ranking for Neil Blomkamp's films. I will say that I like to talk about the director, or at least I try to at the end of my ranking. And I will say that Neil Blomkamp is always going to be one of those directors where, because of how much I love District 9, I will always give his films a chance. Whenever he has something come out, I'm going to be there. I'm going to want to watch it. But I will say that District 9, it does seem like it almost was a fluke because, again, his other three movies just really haven't been on the same end of quality. So, that being said, although I'm kind of disappointed by his other movies, I do still recommend checking out his filmography, if that makes sense, because I think that you can also learn a lot in terms of how to structure a story, how to tell a story when you look at District 9 versus something like Elysium, where it's like two movies that have really interesting concepts, but they go about it very differently. So, again, I respect him as a director, but at the end of the day, he's one for four in my book. But yep. Again, guys, I'm very curious to see your ranking for Neil Blomkamp's films. Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, don't forget the subscription, notification bell, follow me on Letterboxd, and I will catch you guys later.